Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm doing another segment of Ask Judy. If you're enjoying all of these, please do hit like and subscribe, and feel free to put any of your comments or questions in the comment section below. This question is from James, and he said, I always imagined if you're acting in a TV or movie production, you're sitting around in a chair with your name embroidered on the back while waiting to do your scene. I assume that's not actually the case. If not in an immediate scene, would you be in the wings watching the filming? Sometimes, but it's not necessary. It depends on what's being filmed and how interested I was in watching the filming. It can not always be that interesting. There's a lot of waiting around. So although I might catch something here or there, mostly when you weren't in a scene, you tended to leave the set or get out of the immediate filming area because you could be in the way, or if you're talking, you can't talk because you disturb things. So generally, you tended to leave the area. He asked about maybe being in the on-school or on-set classroom. And yes, when it was the school term, and I was still in school, then yes, in between scenes, I would go back to school and work on that until I was being called again. So yes, mostly whatever you're doing, you're there waiting for the assistant director to come and say, you're on. Or someone to say, go change for this scene, or go get your makeup touched up or something. So yeah, you pretty much hang out and wait for when they next need you. He had another question. He said, what happened if you were an integral part of an episode that was being filmed that day, but came down with a mean and violent 24-hour stomach intestinal bug early that morning? Would filming be worked around your scene until you were up to it? A last-minute script revision, or would you just trudge and suffer through your scene as best possible? It, I guess, really depended on just how sick you were. It is a little bit of nobody else can do your job, so if you could show up, you tended to show up and just deal with it. If it was something that you really couldn't, then sometimes they would rearrange the shooting schedule, and sometimes, depending on how critical what you were doing was, then they would write you out of a scene or something. But if it was really your storyline, then it was hard to write you out of things, so they would tend to try to shoot around you until you were back. But mostly I remember people showing up and just sucking it up and doing the work, and hopefully we didn't make each other sick. Okay, you have one more question here. After receiving my diploma and no longer in school, did you have to report to set for every day of filming, even if you had no part in that week's episode, or you just had a small scene for that week, etc.? So, yeah, once I was out of school, or if it was summer, if I wasn't in the day's filming, then I was on hold that day. So although I didn't have to come into the studio, I had to be available in case one of these things happened where somebody was sick or something happened and they had to rearrange the shooting schedule. They had unexpected weather, or there was a problem with the set. So those types of things might mean that you could be called in at the last minute. So you pretty much had to be on call even if you weren't there, but you didn't have to come in and hang around just in case. Hope that answers your questions. Thanks so much. This question is from Scott, and he was saying that about learning how things were filmed. And the first question was, how was winter filmed in the original Homecoming compared to today? So in the Homecoming they did there, we shot in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So we were actually in the snow. So we didn't have to deal with that. But on the Waltons, when we did things like The Best Christmas or Children's Carol, where it was supposed to be snowing, but we were on the back lot of the studio, then they did variations of fake snow. In our case, sometimes they used kind of a plastic sort of a substance, or some sort of just a fake substance that looked like snow. I think we had snowball fights occasionally, so that's probably actual kind of ice, that they could get enough there for us to actually form something to throw. Sometimes, as Marcel talked about in the remake of the Homecoming, they used like snow sheets, so sheets of things that are laid down that look like snow, and then they might put some loose stuff on top that you could actually see move. So they have various different ways of creating that. And then we never used any computer generated images like CGI in the Waltons, because that really didn't exist at that time. So anything we saw, we had to create in person. This question is from Teresa. She said, I have a question. Did the cast fill in as extras on the show at times? If so, how often and on which episodes? No, we never did. If we were ever in a scene, we were in a scene as our own character. Sometimes we were in a scene, but we didn't say anything, so we could sort of be the equivalent of background, but we were there as our own characters. So anytime you saw anybody that you think might have looked like us, but it wasn't being identified that it was supposed to be us, then it was somebody else who just bore a resemblance to us. Next one is from Mark. He said, I have a question you might respond to in your next Ask Judy, and here I am. I've heard that Ellen Corby adopted John Walmsley as her grandson in real life. I'm thinking legally this can't be done, but do you have any insight into this? No, she never legally adopted him. And I think that was probably just a saying, like, oh, I'm adopting you. The way that we might say, I'm taking someone under my wing. So she did that with several of us, where she just looked out for us and sort of mentored us. She did that with me too. She gave me a lot of advice, a lot of wonderful advice. So I think it was probably similar with John, and maybe they were fairly close, during the show and afterwards. So she may have felt that it was like an honorary grandson. Here I have something from Bob. He said, how early in the process did the cast suspect that the series might run as long as it did? I don't know that we ever thought beyond the next season. We never knew. Any season could have been our last. So I felt pretty confident that we were having a good run and our ratings were good. But beyond that, I didn't think how long it might run. And I'm not sure that anybody else did either. He also asked, did filming the reunion episodes, particularly the ones in the 90s, feel different from shooting the original series? Was it easy to fall back into the character and the relationships with fellow cast members? It was different after 10 years off, but those relationships were always there because we continued to be close even when we weren't filming. We saw each other, we got together, we talked, we shared experiences, we did events together. So there was still a lot of interaction. So falling back into those characters that we had done for 220 something episodes was pretty easy. So that it was like we never stepped away. What seemed different was we were older. The storylines were different. We were now grown up. Sometimes the sets and aspects of that felt different. So we were aware of things like that, but not the relationships. That sort of rolls into the next question from Paul, who says, when you weren't shooting, did you spend your off time with your castmates? Sometimes, yeah, not all the time, because we spent so much time together filming that sometimes it's like, okay, that's enough. I'd like to spend some time with my own family and personal friends away from it. But we did do publicity events together, and sometimes, we did just do things for fun together. And then you asked, did you attend the same school? No, none of us attended the same public school, so that didn't happen. And then, yes, I know that I did mention the cruise with Mary at some point, but was wondering about the others. So yeah, Mary and I took that cruise, and Mary and I visited each other different times when we were shooting different things or doing theater in different cities. So she and I probably did more of that earlier on than maybe I did with some of the other cast members, but since then, a number of us have vacationed together or, certainly spent time together. And because of different events we've done, sometimes we'll come in early or stay later so that we can have time to just hang together because we enjoy each other's company. And this question from Becky, who said, with so many young actors in the 70s succumbing to so many pitfalls, why do you think your cast seemed to avoid all that? That's a good question. I think it was a combination of things. One of the things that I feel really contributed to that was that we had each other. There were a lot of us there, and we could be sort of a support system for each other because we were all experiencing the same thing, and we could talk things over with each other. We could spend time with each other. You always had somebody else who could relate to what was happening, or that you could bounce stuff off of. I think for the most part, we also had good foundation at home with our family or with friends. So we had people that were part of our support system, people that helped look out for us. And then even on the show, the adults were very protective of us as well. So I think there were probably times where they went to bat for us or helped us through different things. So, hard to say why one person is more susceptible to those issues than someone else. I think also because our show was a little more grounded in its content, and there was no social media at the time, so that helped. And people didn't go into a frenzy about the Waltons. We were sort of like their next door neighbors. They just felt like we were family. So people didn't really treat us like we were superstars, no matter how popular the show was. So I don't think there was the real opportunity for it to go to our heads, so to speak. And I think that helped a lot as well. We were always sort of treated like kids and told to just do our job and not cause trouble. So I think that we weren't built up around the set by the powers that be, and we weren't treated like we were something really special. And I think that's in a good way, because then we did just feel like we were regular people and interacted that way. So I hope that answers your question, because that's about the best I can do with it. And that's what I have for you for this segment of Ask Judy. Thank you so much for putting your comments in for me and your questions. I will be back with another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.